and you can also find the link in the description below. Now before you go ahead and try to replace the barrel yourself, be aware that it will require some knowledge, it will require some tools. The changing of the barrel itself is not that hard, but the alignment to the magazine, it's a little harder, so be aware that before you start to do this yourself. Now before we start with the disassembly, very important part, safety. We are dealing with high pressures here, and so that's why we will first empty the cylinder. We don't have to empty the whole cylinder, only the regulated part. So the easiest way to do that is to access the regulator and then just turn the regulator screw anti-clockwise or counterclockwise until the air is starting to gush out. You will hear this when you reach the point. So here it is. So we still have a lot of pressure inside, but it's starting to go out. Okay. We have to completely drain it, of course. Okay, we still got 100 bars here. And when you feel the screw doesn't have any resistance anymore, and you can see that the gauge is on 0, and also a good indicator that the cylinder is empty is that the fact that this gauge can be moved slightly without any resistance. So now the gun is empty and we can start with disassembly. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and direct the camera towards the gun. Okay, and we will start with disassembly. So first I will go through the tools you need for this. Basically you need Allen keys mostly. You can use these. I prefer to use these that are on the exchangeable screwdriver. It's a little easier to work with. And of course you will need a custom barrel, which is from the outside exactly the same, so it's totally interchangeable with the stock barrel. So I will just put this barrel aside for the moment. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and start with the disassembly of the gun. First you need to remove this pin, so by just pushing it in and then pulling it out on the other side. Okay, so this is the pin. And the second thing is you have to remove the power wheel with the appropriate Allen key. And then just remove this wheel underneath. This wheel. Okay. And then you will need a pointy pliers like this, and then just put them in these two holes. I will just make a close-up of this. Okay, and once you have this, you can just unscrew it. So turn it left. And just continue until it comes out fully. Okay. Just take it out. Okay, at that point you can remove the stock from the gun by just pulling it off. Okay, I will just put the stock to the side because we will need it. Okay, so now that you have the gun disassembled, I recommend that you remove this screw, so basically to disengage the trigger mechanism, and you have to loosen these two screws in order to pull everything, so this whole assembly of the gun towards the front. But first remove the shroud. Now if by any chance you have also this piece, this front ring mounted on it, on the gun, then just remove it before you start to remove the shroud, so you don't scratch it. And also, so you don't scratch it, I recommend that you use a piece of paper or some towel or something like that and put it in between the cylinder and the shroud, like this. So like this. Just so you don't scratch it when you unscrew it. So just unscrew the shroud. Okay. Okay, in my case, this plastic got stuck on, so I will just pull it off. Like this. And screw this plastic back in. This probably won't happen to you because I removed this plastic a couple of times, so it wasn't very tight in the shroud. Okay, so we have the shroud out. We don't need it, so we will put it aside. So now we can see the stock barrel, and the gun is still assembled. Now we will loosen up these 3 screws. Just loosen up, you don't have to take them fully out. Okay, and take the screw out of the trigger mechanism. Okay, so the trigger mechanism is now loose from the gun, as you can see, and now we can pull this whole assembly off. So basically all you have to do is pull it towards the front. It will be a little harder to do because in this part there are O-rings which are creating friction, so just pull it hard enough and you will be able to pull it off. Okay, so we have the mechanism off. All we got left now is to remove this cheek piece, also by pulling it forward like this. Okay, so now we have to remove this screw out, so we will be able to remove the cylinder from the gun. Okay, this fell off. I'll just pick it up so I don't forget it later. Okay, so now this cylinder obviously is empty. It can rotate freely on its axis, so we rotate it towards the right and then just pull it off. So if you take a look, there's a cam that is tilted, and when we put it on, we put it like this and then rotate it to snap into these grooves here. Okay, so we don't need the cylinder anymore, so we will put it to the side. And now we have just this barrel and mechanism assembly, and we need to we can first remove the barrel if you like by putting out, so by loosening these 3 screws. These screws will be very, very important in the end for the alignment of the barrel. So over here it's 1 screw, on the top it's 1 screw, and on the other side there's 1 screw. So we just need to loosen them for now. They will probably be very tightened. They will be hard to untighten, but you need to do it in order to be able to remove the barrel. And now that you have these 3 screws loosened, you can simply unthread the barrel out of its place. So just unthread it. It's not focusing that well. Okay, it's better now. Okay, you can see here there are marks from those 3 screws. Those 3 screws are actually for alignment of the barrel with the magazine. Okay, so we have the stock barrel out. We'll put it aside. And now we will unscrew these two screws. Just let it focus. So this is the front side of the gun, and we have one screw here and the other one over here. We have to unscrew these two screws fully out. I will just do that now. Probably easier with this, with the correct key. Okay, so unscrew them fully out. And now we can remove this whole assembly away. So we won't need this right now. And this will be the following part will be our barrel alignment procedure. We can take the magazine now off. Okay, don't forget how it's correctly put on, so memorize it. And you can see immediately that now this little lever jumps down. It's spring loaded. And this lever is actually for aligning the magazine. It actually catches into these grooves, and it places the magazine to correct position for each shot. And now we can go ahead and take the new barrel. So I have the new custom barrel from Royale, and we just thread this part in this bridge. Okay, so the first important part, when you thread it in, you have to thread it in just the correct amount. You must not thread it fully. But you have to look on this side, pull this this little lever up, and then just thread it just enough so it sticks just a little bit out. I'm not sure if you will be able to see this in this video, but let's try it. You can see now that the lever cannot fall down. Because it is trapped on the barrel. If I unthread the barrel just a little bit, this lever will jump down. You see? Okay. So we have to thread it in just enough so it holds this lever up. The barrel must protrude this flat surface only by a fraction of a millimeter, to be exactly 0.2 millimeters. No more. And once you have this in place, so once you have it threaded in just the right amount, then you just leave it like this and go ahead and put the magazine back on the assembly. So put it back on the ball bearing. Okay, and now comes the hard part and the very, very important part. What you need to do is look through the barrel. I'm not sure if I will be able to do this on camera, but let's try it. You see, you can look through the barrel towards some shiny, some let's say the sky or something like that, or light, somewhere where there is enough light, and you must align the barrel using these 3 screws. So just it doesn't want to focus. So using these 3 screws, so this one and this one on the top, and this one on the other side, this one. So you use these screws to align the barrel, so when you look through it towards the light or towards the sky or something bright, so it is perfectly aligned with the magazine. And you can try and rotate it a couple of times just to see if you have the same result on each hole of the magazine. So the two important parts again are the fact that the barrel must be threaded in just so much that it protrudes this flat surface for about 0.2 millimeters. This is the first thing. And the second thing, you put the magazine back in. This is sometimes a little tricky, okay? And once you have it back on the breech, then you look through the hole that is currently in front of the barrel, and then just align the barrel using these 3 screws on the breech. So the top one side and the other side, so you can see the lens and the grooves protruding by the same amount around the barrel. Okay, I'm just going to put it on pause now, and I will do this, and then I will continue with reassembly of the gun. Okay, so I managed to align the magazine, so the barrel with the magazine. I will try to show you. So I'm not sure how well you can see this. Let's try closer. So it's quite perfectly aligned. You can align it very accurately using this method without using any special tools. So okay, we have the magazine back on. We will reassemble those two parts. Of course, we have to put the barrel, to leave the barrel on now. We must not remove it for this assembly. We have these 2 screws. You should tighten those 3 screws that align the barrel quite tightly, but not so tight that you will damage the thread. So tighten it hard, but with feeling, not too hard. They do keep the barrel in correct position, but still, it's never good to over tighten anything. Those 2 screws the same. They use the same amount of torque. Okay. So we have this assembled. First, you need to put on the cylinder by locking it and rotating. You can put this little part back on immediately, because this one is like an insurance, so it doesn't rotate when it shouldn't. Okay, and now the cheek piece through the muzzle. Just pull it towards the back, and now this whole assembly, this barrel and cylinder ring, just make sure that the trigger is in correct position, and then just slide it on. These 2 O-rings are quite tight, so it's a little hard to put on. Now, before you tighten the front of the cylinder, make sure that this part and this part are approximately aligned, so it's not crooked, but it will go into correct position by itself, so it's not important. Now you just tighten these 3 screws. And put the trigger mechanism back on the bridge. So this one screw. You might need to adjust the length of this trigger bar by screwing it in or out. But you will see this when you try to pull the trigger. If the length of pull is too long, then you will need to screw it in. If the length of pull is too short, then you will need to screw it out. But you cannot know this now until you try it. Okay, in my case it seems fine. It looks fine. Okay, so now you can put it back in the stock. So begin with the rear end, because there's some rubber here in the end that needs to fit in, and then put it all in like this. So it's inside. You can put the pin right in, so you don't have to worry that the stock will fall off. Just use some plastic to push it in fully, like this. Okay, so now it won't fall out off. The stock won't fall out. And now this is again a little bit tricky part to reassemble. This part, there are actually 2 parts, and you can push this middle axis out by pushing it here, and it comes out here. And I recommend that you don't put this part immediately in, because you have to screw this one in for about 2 or 3 turns before you start screwing the big one in, because otherwise it will just push out this ball bearing in the middle. So that is my recommendation. So just put the small one first in. Oh, it fell in totally. Okay, you have to aim a little better to hit the middle part, and then make 1, 2, 3 turns, and then put the big one in over it, and just screw it in until you can by hand, and in the end with these pointy pliers, like this. Now if the small part, the small shaft in the middle doesn't protrude out when you fully screw this big part in, then it means that you have made too many turns when you screwed it in. So just put the big part out and unscrew the little shaft a little bit out. Okay, so tighten this one in, and once this one is tightened, you can put this wheel on it like this, and then put in the second wheel and just screw it in. You don't have to grab tool. So like this, and you can adjust the scale as you wish. So unscrew it and just turn it until the scale is the way you want it to be, and just you have to hold it in place to tighten it down like this. And now we can rotate it freely. Okay, so that's about it. If by any chance the hole and the screw for regulator inside are not aligned, then just loosen these 3 screws a little bit and turn the whole cylinder until they're aligned, and then just tighten these 2 screws back. Okay, now we can pressurize the gun, make sure it's on safe, and we can start with turning the regulator to the right, so to the right to fill the regulated cylinder. It's just starting to fill. We heard a little bit of gushing air. Okay, you can see the gauge. Like this. There's always some light reflecting. So I won't go too far now. I'll go first to about 150 bars. You can hear the magazine rotating. When you pressurize, this is normal. Okay, we are just a little over 150 bar, and now I will put on the shroud. Again, using this piece of paper in between so I don't damage it. Now that I have the Huben reassembled with a custom barrel, all there is to do is shoot. So my recommendation for the pressure and the power wheel settings is put the pressure somewhere between 150 bars and 200 bars. So I use usually around 170, 180, and put the power wheel to maximum. So fully counterclockwise, and then shoot with JSB Jumbo Beast pellet. These are 34 grain, so they are quite heavy, and because of the small caliber and quite heavy pellets, you can shoot them at extremely high velocities. I recommend it to be shot with velocities over 1000 feet per second, so over 300 meters per second in metric, around 1050 or 320 meters per second, somewhere in that area, or a little less maybe. It depends what kind of shot you want to get. But you can really drive these pellets fast, and the gun will still be accurate and pellet will still be stable. That's kind of the point of this modification. If you have an option, you can also use some kind of alternatives for such heavy pellets, like if you have an option for cast bullets that are about dimension about 0.222 or 223. This would be the most appropriate for this gun, and somewhere around from 30 to 40 grain is, let's say, the ideal weight of the bullet that would shoot well in this gun. But of course there is a limitation of the bullet or pellet length, which is this magazine, unfortunately. Otherwise you would be able to fit in much heavier projectors as well. But as for the pellet or bullet stability, 30 to 40 grain is probably the best choice, and shooting from 900 to 1100 feet per second, it's probably the best. Thanks for watching, guys, and have fun shooting.